One wrong sound, and he would die. As Onesimus grabbed the silver coins, his hands would not stop shaking, one guard catching him inside the house, and the runaway slave would never leave alive. A young slave was risking everything for one chance at freedom, but escaping the house would become the easiest part of his journey, because he was convinced to go back to the same master he had once betrayed. How did a boy willingly go back to the man he once betrayed? To understand this, we must go back to the beginning of Onesimus' story. A wealthy man named Philemon lived in a large, busy city called Colossae. He was a very important person with a very big house. He was also a Christian. Every week, he opened his beautiful home to host a church. People would gather in his courtyard to sing songs. They would share meals together. They would listen to stories about Jesus. They talked about how God loves everyone equally. But when the church service ended, the beautiful words stopped. The guests went home, and Philemon went back to being a Roman master. And in that big house he owned a slave. His name was Onesimus. Under Roman law, Onesimus was not considered a human being. He wasn't a person with feelings, dreams, or rights. The law saw him as property. He was a living tool, just like a broom or a plow, but with a voice. In fact, his very name, Onesimus, meant useful. He was only kept around because he could work. Imagine what it must have been like for him. Every week, he would stand quietly in the corner of the room, holding a pitcher of wine or a plate of bread. He would listen to Philemon and the guests talk about how God brings freedom and love to the world. But as soon as the meeting was over, he was ordered back to the kitchens. He was yelled at. He was treated like an object. Hearing about freedom while living in a cage is a terrible kind of torture. It bred a quiet, simmering desperation deep inside his heart. He did not want to be a tool anymore. He wanted to be a man. Until finally, the tension in his mind snapped. Onesimus decided to do the most dangerous thing a person could do in the ancient world. He decided to run away. But he knew the world outside was harsh. He could not survive with nothing. So, before he slipped out into the dark night, he crept into his master's rooms. He found Philemon's money. He took the silver coins, put them in a small pouch, and ran. In the 1st century, running away from your master was a terrible crime. But running away and stealing from your master was a death sentence. A runaway slave who stole was a dead man walking. The Roman Empire did not show mercy to slaves who broke the rules. The punishment was absolute and meant to scare anyone else who might try the same thing. If the soldiers caught him, they would heat a piece of iron in a fire and brand the letter F on his forehead. F stood for fugitive. He would wear that burn mark for the rest of his life. Or worse, they would throw him into a dirt arena with starving lions for the crowds to watch. Or they would nail him to a wooden cross and leave him to die slowly. With the stolen coins heavy in his pouch and a massive target on his back, Onesimus fled. He ran through the dark streets of Colossae. He hid in the backs of wagons. He walked down dusty roads for weeks. He made the long, perilous journey across land and sea to get as far away from his master as possible. He was heading to the massive city of Rome. Rome was the center of the world. It was a sprawling, chaotic, dirty, and loud metropolis. Over 1 million people lived there. The streets were packed with merchants shouting, soldiers marching, and carts crashing over stone roads. For a hunted man, it offered the absolute best disguise. Onesimus plunged deep into the twisting, dark streets of the city's poorest slums. He rented a small corner to sleep in. He bought fresh bread. He tried to blend in with the massive crowds. He tried to build a new life, but there was a problem. The stolen money did not last forever. Slowly, day by day, the coins in his pouch disappeared. When the very last coin ran out, the cold, harsh reality of his situation set in. He was a man with no money, no legal standing, no family to help him, and no protection. He could not just go get a normal job because someone would ask who his master was. He was completely alone. He started to starve, and worse than the hunger was the fear. Every single knock on a wooden door made his heart stop. Every lingering glance from a Roman soldier in shiny armor made his blood run cold. He knew that bounty hunters made a living by catching runaway slaves and bringing them back for a reward. Every step he took in the city was dangerous. He had run thousands of miles to be free. He was physically free from Philemon, yes, but he was now completely enslaved by his own terror. He was trapped in a prison of his own mind. Then, in the middle of this dark, terrifying life, he crossed paths with one man. His name was Paul. Paul was a famous apostle of Jesus, but he was not standing on a stage preaching to thousands of people. Paul was a prisoner. He was under house arrest, waiting to stand trial before the most powerful man in the world, the Roman emperor. Because he was a high-profile prisoner, Paul was chained by the wrist to a heavily armed Roman guard 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We do not know exactly how the starving runaway slave found the chained old man. But while hiding in Rome, Onesimus walked into Paul's room. Paul could have easily turned him in. Paul could have called the guards. But Paul did not turn the fugitive in. Instead, he looked at this terrified, dirty, exhausted young man and showed him love. He shared the gospel with him. Paul spoke of a liberation of the soul that no Roman emperor could ever grant and no master could ever take away. He told him that Jesus was the ultimate king, but that Jesus came to earth as a servant to save everyone. He told Onesimus that God did not see him as property or as a tool. God saw him as a beloved son. Sitting on the dirt floor of a Roman prison house, listening to a man wearing iron chains, the runaway slave finally found true freedom. He surrendered his life to Christ. The transformation inside Onesimus was immediate and total. Before, his only goal was survival. His only goal was hiding. But now, instead of running further to protect himself, Onesimus chose to stay in the most dangerous city in the world. He decided to stay right there in that small room and serve Paul. He became a deeply trusted assistant. He went out into the dangerous streets to buy food for the aging apostle. He carried messages. He cleaned the floors. He washed Paul's clothes. For the first time in his entire life, Onesimus lived up to the meaning of his name. He was incredibly useful. He was not serving because he was forced to by a whip. He was serving because he wanted to out of love. Paul grew to love this young man deeply. Paul would later write a letter saying that Onesimus had become his very heart. They were like father and son. Months passed like this. It was a beautiful time of healing. But Paul was a wise man, and he knew the harsh truth of the law. Under Roman law, Onesimus still legally belonged to Philemon. The fact that Onesimus was now a Christian did not change his legal status in the eyes of the empire. Keeping Onesimus in Rome meant Paul was actively harboring a known fugitive. That was a serious crime, but there was something even more important than the Roman law. It was the law of love. Paul knew that keeping Onesimus meant leaving a deep, painful, unhealed fracture between two Christian brothers. Philemon was sitting back in Colossae, feeling betrayed and robbed. Onesimus was sitting in Rome, carrying the secret guilt of what he had done. You cannot build a new, beautiful life on top of a stolen, broken foundation. The wrong had to be made right. The stolen money had to be accounted for. The past had to be faced. Paul made an agonizing, heartbreaking decision. He looked at the young man he loved like a son, and he told Onesimus he had to go back. Think about how terrifying that sentence must have been. To go back to Colossae was to walk directly into the jaws of a legal system that demanded his blood. Philemon had every right to execute him on the spot. No one would stop him. In fact, the law would demand that an example be made to deter the other slaves in the city from running away. Yet, Onesimus agreed to go. This is the true proof of his changed heart. He was no longer a terrified fugitive running from his past. He was a brave man, filled with faith, willing to face the deadly consequences of his actions to make things right. Finally, he arrived. Onesimus walked up to the big house. The guards surely grabbed him immediately. He was brought into the courtyard to stand before the man he had robbed and abandoned. Philemon looked at his runaway property. But before the chains could be brought out, before the soldiers could be called, Onesimus reached into his clothes and handed Philemon the letter. Philemon unrolled the paper and began to read. In that letter, Paul made a radical, world-changing request. Paul did not use his power as an apostle to order Philemon to release the slave. Instead, he appealed to love. He reminded Philemon that they were all saved by grace. And then he asked Philemon to forgive Onesimus. Paul wrote, "I appeal to you for my son Onesimus, who became my son while I was in chains. He is coming back to you." Then came the line that would echo through history. Paul told Philemon to welcome Onesimus back, no longer as a slave, but better than a slave, as a dear brother. Paul was asking for the impossible. He was asking a wealthy Roman master to completely shatter the social rules of the empire right inside his own home.
What about the crime?
He was asking Philemon to embrace his runaway property as a spiritual equal. He was asking him to seat a criminal at the same dining table. But what about the crime? What about the silver coins that were stolen? Paul removed that barrier completely. He wrote, "If he has wronged you or owes you anything, charge that to my account. I, Paul, am writing this with my own hand. I will pay it back." Paul took the debt of a guilty man and placed it on his own shoulders. The Bible does not record the exact look on Philemon's face in the moment he finished reading those powerful words, but history tells us the outcome. We know the outcome because the letter itself was saved. It was preserved carefully. It was copied by hand over and over again. And eventually, it was bound into the sacred scriptures of the Christian faith. It is in the Bible today. That never would have happened if Philemon had torn the letter up and executed his slave. It was kept because Philemon did exactly what Paul asked. He dropped his anger. He gave up his rights. He forgave him. And so ends the true story of Onesimus, a man who had every reason in the world to keep running, but chose to turn back.
These videos take many hours to make. If you could, please like and subscribe. Also, we want to know which countries our viewers are watching this video from. Please comment the country you are watching from. Thank you. Until the next video.